So,
Very good.
but but it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you.
You
Yeah,
bet.
I'm excited.
I am looking forward to delving into this sage wisdom you have of no nonsense marketing and PR. And
Sure.
and we kind of talked about you're near the fires that are taking place, the devastating fires in LA right now. One of the things that we lived through collectively on the planet that was quite tumultuous for all of us was living through this pandemic. How much of
Mhm.
living through that time period has sent ripples that you still feel right now in this new year, 2025?
Sure. So when 2020 hit, when the pandemic hit, my business just stopped. So I was at the time I was doing a lot of stakeholder facilitation for different community issues. And so all of those people who were these stakeholders, they were executive directors and leaders of different nonprofits and city departments and stuff. So they needed to tend to their immediate needs, which was a lot of getting groceries and diapers in the hands of the people who needed them. And so my business just stopped. So, which was fine. My husband's a mortgage broker. So his business zoomed because rates were super low and he refied everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
So that was okay. So I took to house projects because I thought it was 2 weeks. I'm like,
Yeah.
what can I do in these 2 weeks? So I did a lot of things around the house. And then as things, it's like, okay, this is serious. We're not coming out. Disneyland closed, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
this
Right.
means something.
Yeah.
I had time on my hands, and I'd always had in the back of my mind, I always wanted to write this book,
Yep.
The Laws of Promotion. And I had done workshops through Long Beach Chamber of Commerce, the Home Based Business, Women's Business Council, those kinds of different little groups. I would do these workshops, and I took Newton's laws of motion and turned them into the laws of promotion. And I always wanted to turn it into a book.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I had time. And everybody in my house was sort of angry at, a senior in high school. So her, whole senior year was, imploded. No prom, no graduation, all of those things, which they muddled through, but it was disappointing for sure. The
Yeah.
other daughter was in a semester abroad in Grenoble, France, had to come home. Um, and then my husband was super busy. So I was, doing things around the house. I was sort of excited to have so much time with only me making my schedule. I wasn't having to jump on calls or anything. And so I was sort of in this euphoria in a way. I mean, I
Yeah.
was worried about what was happening, but at the beginning, you're like, oh, they're going to solve this,
Sure.
they're going to contain it. And
Uh-huh.
then it just keeps going on and on. And
Yeah.
so I took the time and wrote the little book.
Yes.
Um, and it is I think, arguably the simplest marketing book out there. Because I think that's sometimes I meet people, small businesses who can't afford me or they can't afford bigger agencies, but they need to do something and they don't know where to start. And there wasn't even a good book to refer them to. Like, just read this, you'll get it. Like, even Marketing for Dummies is 200 pages, right? I'm like, that nobody's going to take the time to do that. And you see like a lot of family owned businesses, like especially restaurants, and 20% of businesses fail in the first year.
Yeah.
Restaurants, we notice because it's so public, right? They hung their sign and the sign came down, right?
Yeah.
And so many of them, they knew their food. They had plenty of people to work with them. The family came in and became the wait staff and became the operations manager, and they had a great, menu and a great logo and did what they could to the interior of whatever, space they could afford. And then they don't know how to promote themselves. They're
Yeah.
like, well, it's good. The product will stand on its own.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's more to it. So wrote this book, and it's fill in the blanks. And I mean, it has cartoons that I drew myself. It's
Yeah.
very accessible. Somebody goes, Leslie, do you want to hire somebody a little more professional? I'm like, no, I think
Right.
people get it.
Yeah.
I think they're, they it's it's not intimidating by
Sure.
any means. And so
Sure.
there's fill in the blanks, and there's a
Yeah.
couple of downloads that they can get from the website, and it's available in the hard copy for just $10. And then the Kindle is like $5 or something.
Yeah.
And so then taking that, when we started coming out, I started doing some workshops at different like chambers of commerce and things like that, where these small businesses could come, and we created, basically here's their little handout that they just go through and they
Yeah.
fill in the blanks, and we go through, the 3 laws plus talk about some evaluation. The book has a case study so
Hmm.
they can see what those principles are like in action.
Yeah.
And then what a local high school bought it for their marketing class, like, which it's that elementary,
Yeah.
right? It's that simple. And I think that's where, even established consultants, like maybe they're wonderful at some niche market, and they decide they're going to start their own consultancy, but they're overwhelmed by the acronyms and all of this other stuff. And they go, okay, I got to go to social media.
Yeah.
So they create all this content and they start doing that, and it's not getting any traction, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so this brings them back to the basics. Like, go to those 4 P's: your product, price, place, promotion. Figure out the strategy for those things and then start promoting it. And most people need to do things in person, which, even, coming out of COVID, so we could do this. It's a
Yeah.
Zoom. You can, get on Zoom and you can get to know people, and then eventually you'll, be able to meet them in person, which has happened. So the now, since then, your original question, what have been the ripples since then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it's harder to get people to come out
Yeah.
because they got so comfy,
Yeah.
and then they invested in the tools to stay home.
Yeah.
So it's harder to get that engagement out. I do see it picking up. There's
Yeah.
more people coming to like chamber lunches or, you know, different entities where it's live and in person.
Sure.
But it's slow.
Yeah.
It's
So
slow.
let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. You
Sure.
touched on that. But if I
Sure.
put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day and one of the kids in the
Sure.
back of the room is curious and is like, hey, what do you do for a living? How do you
Yeah.
answer them?
Sure. So I help people reach their ideal customer. So I help people in an affordable way, right? So I think a lot of people, promotion is not just advertising. So little kids, you understand that, when you watch TV and there's these commercials, those commercials are very expensive. And for just a local person, maybe they could put an ad in the newspaper, but you have to do it repeatedly, which can add up. So I help people more on the public relations side, which is what it sounds like, how you relate to your public. So doing things that are face to face and building up your reputation, delivering on what you promise, and coming up with some tools to do that. And my favorite thing to do is community relations. So do
Yeah.
those very public facing, contests and, tabling events and participating in community events and those kind of, I once dressed up like a cow for a client. So,
That's awesome.
so whatever it takes
Yep.
to get them out there with their target audience.
Yeah.
So I think even, I bet I'd have to change the case study, but I bet third graders can
Yeah.
understand this. But it's a brewery. So
Yeah.
it's a craft brewery as a case study. So we change it to a taco stand or something.
Yeah. For sure.
But
Yeah. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
I wanted to be a writer.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved creative writing, and I would say that took, although, in third grade I started to, our school participated in a speech meet, and I loved that. And so I don't think I got to go to the regional speech meet in third grade, but I think in fourth or fifth grade I started going, and I'm like, blue ribbons, baby, blue. And I loved that, the energy that you got from a live audience kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
was total recitation, right? You learned the poem or whatever, and you added your little gestures and tried to make it look as natural as possible, as a fifth grader can. Um, those, I loved doing that, more the creative kind of stuff, which, interestingly, when I started college, I was a chemistry major.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I came out with a degree in communications, emphasis in advertising.
Yeah.
So I went back to my, more creative, more social.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, how did these seeds get planted into you to become kind of a marketing PR guru and wanting to be a writer? What were those that were planted and cultivated that evolved into your career today?
From early age, it would be, the teachers giving us a prompt to write a story,
Yeah.
and often my story was read to the class. So I went, oh, I have something, right? So, but I think I didn't think that was a career,
Yeah.
right? And so I needed the, more to-dos. And I've always loved words and wordplay. And my dad was a super funny guy and really did a lot of puns. And so that was always part of my um, world growing up. For several years on Facebook, I would do a words to never confuse. And it would be like feet and feast or something, and I'd do something funny about it.
Yeah.
And that sort of fell off the last couple of years because business came back like gangbusters last year.
Yeah.
Well, actually, 2 years ago, 2023.
Yeah.
It was like slow to come back and then it like took off. Um, so I fell off on doing some of those fun little extra things. Um, and then but I think that creativity was always fostered in crafts. That's another part of my world. My mother, we would go shopping and stuff. My mother would say, "Oh, that's cute. You could make it.
Yeah.
You could make it." And so that creativity was fostered. So regardless of how I was applying it at the time, there was a confidence of I can create that, I can do that. Um, I can come up with a way to solve that issue and maybe something that's not what everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
right?
So let me ask you this. Who's been that inspiration in your career, that hero, that bedrock?
You know, I've had a lot of my um more mentors have been women that I met through Junior League.
Yeah.
So I'm a member of the Junior League of Long Beach and was president in 05, 06. And there have been people, it's the people when they see something in you and they say, how would you like to do this?
Yeah.
So, those kinds of things really bolster the confidence. Like
Yeah.
I'm a pretty confident person, maybe too confident in some points. Like maybe I should have done a little more prep here and there, but confident nonetheless. And sometimes, like I don't think I'm ready for that. And somebody's saying, "Oh, you are, and
Yeah.
you're going to do fine, and you're going to prep for it, and you'll be fine." So there's a few women from Junior League who I definitely will call and say, "Hey, I have this idea. What do you think?"
Yeah.
Um, and they're a good support team,
Sure.
right? They're going to be the people who like that Facebook post or
Yeah.
boost, share that Instagram post or that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So yeah. Yeah, my
So
dad passed away, so but he throughout my career, I need a good headline for this newsletter
yeah.
article. And it's like, what's it about? And he'd go, "Oh, how about blah blah blah," which he and I would err on the clever.
Yeah.
I had for a few years I wrote for a newspaper and he's like, "No, no clever."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like just say what it is. This
Yeah.
is news.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this, in the realm of business or in your industry or otherwise, if you could meet one person out there that you find fascinating, spend some time with them, ask questions, learn from them, who would that be?
Oh, there's many. Wow. Gosh. So one person that comes to mind is Amy Porterfield.
Uh-huh.
Don't know. So she, if you're familiar with her, but so in COVID, I did take her class, her digital course academy.
Yeah.
And I'm still working on implementing some of that stuff because there's a learning curve there too. But she is a fascinating person for the business that she's built pretty quickly in teaching people how to do online classes,
Yeah.
right? And then in that realm, there have been all of these other people that I've been exposed to through that.
Yeah.
Um, there, Lydia Martin is an amazing person who's about decluttering your workspace,
Yeah.
and has lots of tricks and tips for that. Megan Sumrell, who does she really focuses on women being overwhelmed. And I wish I knew her when my kids were little,
Yeah.
because it's all about that, like
Yeah.
balancing your um public and your personal lives.
Sure.
I keep telling her she needs to do something for empty nesters, but she's not there yet.
Yeah.
And then like business for like Jim Collins. I
Yeah.
love Good to Great. I love those books. Um, oh, Don Miguel Ruiz,
Yeah.
The Four Agreements. Oh my gosh, that's a life-changing book.
Yeah.
I loved that book. And I've done workshops for Junior League with that just for as a communications tool
Yeah.
and not to make assumptions and not to take things personally. Let's just be grown-ups and move on and do your very best and mean what you say. So I'm looking at my books.
Yeah.
I got to see Malcolm Gladwell a
Oh,
few
cool.
months ago.
I love
Yeah.
him.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
He's so
it was
cool.
it was very good.
Yeah.
He was talking about the Varsity Blues scandal
Uh-huh.
and how the last person said, no, I'm not paying a fine. I didn't do anything wrong, and
Yeah.
went to trial and he won. And
Wow.
that's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
And it might be on his podcast or coming out in a book. So I won't
Yeah.
belabor the point, but a really fascinating story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love that. I love people that, go deep on things and, have the time to do that and explore all sides and condense it and, share it out.
For sure. So, how do you balance this life that you have of being the best you can for clients, but you evolve yourself as a human being? What gets you out of bed and motivates you every day?
Oh, yes. So there's a persona in my mind called Judicious Leslie. When the alarm goes off after 6 times of hitting the 5-minute snooze, she appears in my mind standing there. She says, "You're going to be mad at yourself if you don't get out of bed
Yep.
now." Like,
Yep.
yep, you're right. So I get out of bed, and I do better when I have a schedule to keep.
Yeah.
That's for sure. When I have an open day, that is, it takes like a schedule is like a stack of ice cubes.
Yeah.
And when it's open, it's a puddle. And I don't operate to my optimum.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely scheduling things every day. And I used to say, oh, on Fridays, I won't schedule things. Oh, that didn't work. It was a worthless day
Yeah.
because I'd go, oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. And I'm like, I never get a weekend
Yeah.
because I would kind of take Fridays off and maybe meet somebody for coffee, and that would be the only thing on my schedule, or it was chill. I'll work all that day. I
Yeah.
never do,
Yeah.
never do if I don't have chunks of time.
Yeah.
So we have this morning. I have another client, and then I have a few hours where I can get some work done, and then I have another client in the afternoon, and then I can work until I end my day, and then I won't have to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I have this backwards. And that's I started my business 30 years ago, and home-based businesses was a unicorn.
Yeah.
It was weird to people, it was weird to organizations. FedEx, you couldn't have an account with FedEx. You couldn't have, there was all sorts of weird things that the chamber would step in and say, okay, you do that through us, or, whatever. It was very strange. But I had to get up and take a shower, get dressed every day, because and especially like if I was running errands, like just going to the post office, and this is in 94, people
Yeah.
still dressed up to work.
Sure.
There was never just a jeans day. That was
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
So even if I had to run an errand, I had to look like I was working,
Yeah.
because people would go, oh, are you taking today off? Like it wasn't even Zoom.
Yeah.
It
Right.
was just working in my house dressed up.
Yeah.
So but I had to do that. Otherwise it did feel like a weekend.
Yeah.
Every day felt like a weekend,
Yeah.
regardless of, in addition to the outside world saying, oh, you must be off today.
Sure.
So,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
So that does help too. I do think I'm a
yeah.
little more productive if I'm
Right.
dressed up.
They say that. They say there's a mentality that goes into that for sure. There's a lot that goes into it. So, of all of these things that you've done and accomplished, and with the book and everything, what are you the proudest of?
My children.
Yep, I get it.
Right. Um, yeah, I am excited that I was able um to balance so that I could be home with them.
Yeah.
Right. And the home-based business thing, that was sort of built in by design. I got married and started the business at the same time. We had children 5 years later. And it was very much, I need to be here when they come home every day. I need to pick them up. I need to be involved in, everything they do. And it's funny, I was PTA president, and that year on the board, I think all but two of us had our own businesses,
Yeah.
which was very interesting, and
Sure.
very different kinds of things, but we had that flexibility
Yeah.
and we had the administrative skills to say, okay, let's get this done.
Sure.
Right. Um, but yeah, that's probably, and then I've the longevity. I'm still in business for 30 years.
Absolutely.
And right. And there were ups and downs, right? And I think that happens with any job,
Yeah.
any job market, whatever. I mean, if I was working for somebody else, there could have been times when I was laid off, right? For whatever reason, because marketing and PR is often the first thing to get cut or cut
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so there's been ups and downs, but and I think when my kids were in high school, I'm like, oh gosh, some of my friends are retiring soon.
Yeah.
Had husbands.
Yeah.
And so I really picked up the pace there and went after more clients myself. I'd done a lot of sub work. And then some of that was drying up. People were retiring or going back into corporate. And so I had to take charge and really turn around and, be more serious about my income goals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
um, well, okay. So I'm a very creative person. That's for sure. Um, here's my imposter Leslie's going, oh, be careful here.
Yes.
I used to say I was determined, and diligent. So, and I do think those things are still true. I think they manifest a little bit differently. I am determined is also, that's the nice word for stubborn.
Yeah.
Right. But I do think now in my world, I think I'm a little more relaxed. You go from being the young lion to being the mentor.
Yeah.
I don't worry as much about getting business. I'm happy to refer people if I don't feel it's a complete fit for me. So I would say in that realm, I'm maybe that's being wise,
Yeah.
right? Knowing my own limitations and what interests me, the things that interest me, I'll work harder on.
Sure.
Right. So I am diligent, but I'm more diligent on the things that really interest me.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
For sure.
Right. And so and I'm ambitious. I think
Yeah.
everybody sees me that way.
Yeah.
I have lots of ideas, never relaxing too long.
Yeah. For sure. So if anyone wants to pick up a copy of your wonderful new book, they want to hire you, they want to reach out, they have questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
They go to mccormickla.com, McCormickla.com.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Perfect. Hey, stay safe out there with
Thank
all of this
you.
madness going on. And this was wonderful. Thank you so much for your story. Thank you
so
for your
much,
time.
Joe.
Have a wonderful new year.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.